know nobody probably won't take no time out to watch this. I'm just saying to you, when I'm playing this game, I'm thinking a lot about how to get you to realize you. Might sound crazy, but it ain't crazy because it's the truth. Because if I get people to realize the only reason why they're alive in the first place is because of creativity. That's it, that's all. That's in us all. That's the wisdom that's within you, for you, so you could never get it done as a believer is. I'm sorry. All believers are liars. All believers are stupid. Because the truth is the truth, and you're not supposed to be stopping and not thinking and believing shit. You should be thinking 24 fucking 7 in order to know better. There ain't no fucking middle man in thinking for yourself. It's just you and the creator of you being here. It's just that we've been taught to be stupid. And I say too fucking far past stupid to the point where how can you ever see straight if you don't know what straight is? I say no with facts. I ain't talking about trying to make believe, understand, faith, and hope bullshit. I'm talking about knowing what the motherfucking truth is to the point where you can poke a motherfucking eye and they can see that shit. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Calling for the plane so we go across here and lay up there and finish this mission. Send me a little pickup. I appreciate it. Let's put some put a little plane somewhere.
Where are we heading? Easy enough. The best thing about this job? They don't drug test.
That's the end of that. Let's get some real talk.
The Senate has passed what Donald Trump calls the One Big Beautiful Bill. Critics call it reckless. I call it overdue.
Just look at the
It
view.
makes Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent. It cuts taxes on tips, overtime, car loans, and Social Security income. It shifts billions towards securing the border and strengthening the military. In other words, it puts working Americans, not bureaucrats, first. Naturally, the left is outraged. Not because it doesn't work, but because it does. And if you want to understand why this single
really
bill
enjoy
has the
talking to
entire
you.
establishment in a
It's
panic,
been good seeing
just
you.
follow who stands to lose the most. For years, the American
have
taxpayer
reached the
has lived
destination.
under a dark cloud of uncertainty, uncertain wages, uncertain savings, uncertain futures. And worst of all, uncertain taxes. Since the day Trump's 2017 tax cuts went into effect, middle-class Americans have quietly benefited from larger paychecks and lower tax burdens. But those gains have hung by a thread as Democrats made it their mission to repeal, delay, or let them quietly expire. That's not just bad policy, it's economic sabotage. Because when you don't know what your taxes will look like a year from now, you don't invest, you don't spend confidently, and you certainly don't hire. Businesses shrink
Man,
their
these
plans,
bitches throw me
families
way
scale
over here.
back
This some
their goals,
bullshit.
and the middle class,
Then
once
let
the
me go
engine
down
of
on my
this nation,
motherfucking.
is held hostage by politicians who believe your money belongs to them first. Progressives call it equity. But what they've really built is a fragile economy powered by fear, where the government takes more, gives less, and blames you when it all falls apart. Look at the record. After the brief success of Trump-era tax cuts, which sparked job growth, wage increases, and business reinvestment, the left responded, not with support, but with envy. They launched a crusade to raise taxes on the very people keeping the economy afloat. They promised the rich would pay their fair share. But what followed was a familiar trick: shrinking deductions for small businesses, removing exemptions for families, and quietly raising the effective tax rate on work itself. Meanwhile, spending ballooned, not on infrastructure or innovation, but on bloated welfare programs, subsidies for dependency, and bureaucracy that swallows every dollar before it ever reaches a citizen. Under the guise of compassion, trillions were shoveled into programs that incentivize joblessness and punish success. Medicaid expanded without accountability. SNAP benefits swelled with no exit path. And the debt, it exploded. We now sit on a $35 trillion time bomb.
36 trillion.
More spending, more taxes, and more control. But here's what they won't admit. The middle class didn't break this system. Washington did. And yet the consequences always seem to land on working people. Your groceries are more expensive, your rent is higher, your take-home pay is shrinking, and the very people who created the crisis have the nerve to tell you that you're not paying enough. Even now, as Trump's new bill promises permanent tax relief and targeted breaks for the working class on tips, overtime, car payments, and Social Security, the media's response is to scream about the national debt. Convenient, isn't it? Where was this concern when the Biden administration signed off on trillions in rescue packages that rescued no one? Where was this panic when student debt was wiped off the books without a dollar's worth of more? Where was the scrutiny when illegal immigration exploded under federal neglect, costing taxpayers billions in housing, healthcare, and public services? The truth is, the left only remembers the debt when they're not the ones doing the spending, and they only care about fiscal responsibility when it threatens their ideological grip on government control. This is the bait and switch they've pulled for decades. Use economic collapse as justification for more government intervention, then blame capitalism when their interventions fail. It's the same old playbook: grow the state, shrink the citizen, and punish anyone who dares to keep more of what they earn. But Americans are waking up. The outrage of the taxes isn't coming from billionaires. It's coming from waitresses, truck drivers, small business owners, people who don't have offshore accounts and tax attorneys, but who pay more, get less, and are told they should be grateful for it. They see the system for what it is now: a racket, one designed to reward political loyalty, not productivity, one that lets bureaucrats gamble with your future while pretending to be virtuous, one that's quick to hand out money you haven't earned, but even quicker to take back everything you have. And when critics warn that Trump's bill will increase the deficit by $3 trillion over a decade, ask yourself, what do they actually fear? It's not the number, it's not the deficit. It's the idea that working Americans might finally get a system that puts them before the political clouds. Because this bill isn't just about tax cuts, it's about priorities. It's about giving you more control over your earnings. It's about returning power to the wage earners, the savers, the builders, not the bureaucrats. It's about sending a message that your work matters more than Washington's waste. And yes, it dares to fund border security and the military while scaling back unchecked welfare. Not because we don't care about people in need, but because we know that endless dependency is not compassion, it's control. So when the critics cry foul, understand this: they aren't angry because it won't work. They're terrified because it might. They know that if this approach succeeds, if Americans start to see their paychecks rise, their taxes shrink, their streets grow safer, then the old excuses vanish, the old lies collapse, and the people begin to ask dangerous questions. Why were we told this couldn't be done? Why did they lie to us for so long? And most of all, what else has the establishment been hiding in plain sight? Because what if the answer to all these problems was sitting right under their noses this entire time? Donald Trump didn't push this bill through the Senate to score headlines. He didn't craft it to impress Wall Street donors or curry favor with lobbyists. He did it for one reason: to put economic power back where it belongs, in the hands of the American people. For too long, this country has operated under a warped idea that government knows better than citizens how to spend a dollar, that bureaucrats in Washington should decide what you need, when you need it, and how much of your income you're allowed to keep. And under that model, what have you got? Debt, decay, dependency. What Trump understands, and what the establishment fears, is that real prosperity doesn't come from top-down directives or bloated entitlement programs. It comes from the dignity of work, from the simple idea that a man or woman who earns $1 has a right to keep more than a sliver of it. It comes from economic freedom, not government permission. That's why the one big, beautiful bill matters. It isn't just a tax policy. It's a declaration of war against the political class that's been draining the middle class for decades. This bill is Trump's answer to an entrenched elite that grows more powerful every time the paycheck gets smaller. Consider what the bill actually does. It makes Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent, removing the expiration date that the left...
Permanent. Do you hear that? Permanent. You don't have to beg for them to do it again and again and again and again. But it's some stupid shit. Boy, we stupid. These people played us so fucking stupid to the point where I can't even see how we couldn't see good being played. I can't, unless we just that stupid.
It introduces new targeted cuts on real-life burdens that the political class has never experienced. Tax breaks for tip workers, for overtime, for fraud victims, for Social Security recipients who've already paid into the system their entire lives. This is not theoretical policy cooked up in faculty lounges. It is real relief for real people. Trump is attacking the heart of the left's strategy. Tax the workers, fund the non-workers, and expand government control to dependency. Because that's what it's always been about. Power. Not compassion, not justice. Power. You see, every tax hike isn't just a money grab. It's a behavioral tool. It punishes productivity, discourages saving, and makes risk-taking more costly. And every expansion of welfare, no matter how well packaged, increases the government's leverage over your choices. When you rely on the state for food, housing, healthcare, every aspect of your life, freedom becomes a slogan, not a reality. Trump's bill shatters that model. It says, keep your money, build your life, provide for your family without fear that your success will be penalized. It gives the people leverage, not the IRS. And predictably, the establishment is in a panic. Because this bill doesn't just reduce taxes, it removes excuses. It leaves the bureaucrats with fewer tools to engineer society from the top down. It tells Americans, you are not helpless. And that is the greatest threat to any centralized regime, self-sufficiency. But this bill isn't just about individual prosperity, it's about national strength. That's why it also allocates funding to secure our southern border and bolster our military, because you can't have economic freedom without national security. Open borders and unchecked illegal immigration drive up the costs of healthcare, housing, education, all while undermining wages for the very workers the left tends to defend. Trump knows that protecting the working class means defending the nation itself. That's why the bill pairs tax relief with investment in the institutions that protect us, our military, our veterans, our borders. That's balance, not austerity. It's targeted, strategic, and rooted in a philosophy the left abandoned years ago. Government exists to serve the people, not rule over them. Now ask yourself, why would anyone oppose this? Why would anyone stand against a plan that puts more money in your pocket, protects your country, and honors your work?
Only if they've been robbing us.
That's the nightmare scenario. If this bill works, if the economy grows, if wages rise, if independence increases, they lose the narrative. They lose the justification for their entire model of governance. No more fear-based fundraising, no more class warfare, no more false promises built on keeping people broke and afraid. This bill exposes the great lie of modern liberalism. That prosperity must be managed by those in power. Trump's bill says no. It must be unleashed by those who work. And the people understand this. That's why even moderate Democrats are privately panicking. Because they know this isn't some niche policy change. It's a tectonic shift. It's a signal that the era of central planning and economic intimidation is ending. And make no mistake, this isn't about the ultra-rich. This is about the waitress trying to make rent on tips, the mechanic clocking 60-hour weeks just to pay off a truck loan, the elderly couple who worked their whole lives and now fear outliving their retirement. This bill is for them. It's not some abstract economic theory. It's a blueprint for restoring the dignity of work and the promise of freedom. And that's exactly why the establishment hates it. So what does this bill really do? And why does it matter so much? And the answer is buried in everything they won't tell you. And that's where we go next. What makes the One Big Beautiful Bill so powerful isn't just its intent, it's its design. For once, we are looking at legislation crafted not to appease special interests, but to serve the people who actually make this country work. The people who get up early, stay late, earn their wages honestly, and are sick and tired of being punished for doing the right thing. Let's break it down. First, the foundation. Trump's tax cuts are now permanent. No more political gamesmanship where your paycheck swings up or down depending on which party controls Congress. No more hidden sunsets baked into legislation so that tax hikes kick in quietly years later. This bill locks in lower rates for working middle-class Americans permanently. That means stability. That means predictability. That means families can actually plan for the future, buy homes, start businesses, save for college, without worrying about the government moving the goalposts overnight. The tax code should not be a weapon, it should be a tool. And for the first time in years, this bill turns it into one. But the relief doesn't stop there. It targets the pain points that Washington elites never experience. If you've ever waited tables or poured coffee, you know how frustrating it is to be taxed on tips the government assumes you made. This bill changes that. It gives tax breaks for tipped workers, recognizing that these are people trying to climb the economic ladder, not dodge taxes. And what about overtime? For decades, the system has punished those who work the hardest. You put in an extra shift to provide for your family, and what do you get? Taxed into oblivion. Under Trump's plan, overtime work gets its own tax relief, acknowledging the grind that millions endure every week. This is how you reward work, not by penalizing it, but by respecting it. Then there's Social Security. Millions of seniors live on fixed incomes, while inflation, medical costs, and taxes eat away at their stability. This bill finally does what previous administrations only promised. It protects Social Security benefits from unnecessary taxation, putting more money directly into the hands of those who earned it over a lifetime of contribution. This isn't just policy, it's a philosophy. It's the idea that government's job is not to redistribute wealth, but to stop getting in the way of people creating it. Now let's talk national security, because no economy thrives in chaos. The bill includes major funding increases for border security and military readiness. These aren't talking points. These are real dollars allocated to protect the country's infrastructure, enforce immigration law, and secure our sovereignty. Because if you can't control your border, you can't control your future. Illegal immigration isn't just an issue of law, it's an economic burden. It puts strain on hospitals, schools, housing, law enforcement. It drives wages down for blue-collar workers, especially minorities, who compete most directly with illegal labor. Trump's bill funds the tools necessary to fix it, from new border control equipment to modernized detention facilities to expanded technology for screening and enforcement. And our military, after years of being stretched thin and politically undermined, this bill gives them what they need: resources, respect, and readiness. Supporting veterans and restoring strength to our armed forces isn't just a defense priority, it's an economic one. A safe, stable nation attracts investment, innovation, and opportunity. Of course, the critics are screeching. They say this will explode the deficit, gut the social safety net, and leave millions to suffer. But what they won't tell you is that the most bloated programs of government, the ones that grow without oversight and foster dependency, have become tools of political control, not compassion. This bill doesn't eliminate help for the vulnerable. It reforms it. Programs like Medicaid and SNAP aren't being destroyed. They're being recalibrated. That means rooting out fraud, enforcing work requirements for able-bodied adults, making sure benefits actually go to the truly needy. In other words, dignity over dependence. If you're able to work, The system should help you become self-sufficient, not trap you in permanent poverty. This bill nudges the system away from stagnation and toward mobility. And that's what terrifies the left, because a free, mobile population doesn't need them anymore. This is not a reckless tax cut, nor is it austerity in disguise. It is a comprehensive plan that fuses economic revival with national renewal. It invests in people while protecting the nation. It trims fat, not muscle. It rewards effort, not inertia. And most importantly, it treats Americans like adults, capable of making decisions about their own lives, their own money, and their own future. That's the true departure here. For decades, Washington has operated under the assumption that citizens are children to be managed. Trump's bill reverses that completely. It trusts people to know what's best for their families because they do. And the results are already undeniable. Consumer confidence is climbing. Small business hiring is up. Markets are responding. And perhaps most telling of all, the American people overwhelmingly support it. Polls show a majority of voters, including many independents and even working-class Democrats, back this bill. Not because Trump passed it, but because it finally reflects their reality. They're tired of being punished for working hard. They're tired of watching criminals cross the border while they get taxed into submission. They're tired of the lies. They want a system that works for them, not against them. And the polls show Americans overwhelmingly support this vision for a stronger, freer future. But the left sees this support, and they're terrified, because if the people wake up to what real freedom looks like, the game is over. And now with the bill passed, that moment is coming fast. When a policy shift sends shockwaves through Washington, you can tell who it threatens most by who screams the loudest. The passage of Trump's one big beautiful bill didn't just pass with a narrow Senate vote, it triggered a nationwide political awakening. Because unlike the left's empty gestures and moral posturing, this bill delivers something tangible, results, and the people know it. In a recent Rasmussen poll taken just days after the bill's passage, 67% of likely voters said they support making Trump's tax cuts permanent, especially after seeing how rising inflation and economic uncertainty have devoured their paychecks in recent years. Among working-class voters under 50, the number climbs even higher. And among Latino voters, a demographic the left claims to own, support for the border security provisions of the bill registered at nearly 60%. Why? Because people living in the real world know what's at stake. They've watched their wages stagnate under progressive regimes that talk about equity while bleeding them dry through higher taxes and reckless spending. They've watched crime spill over from sanctuary cities into their own neighborhoods. They've watched the American dream become a punchline for elites who've never set foot in a factory or run a small business. And finally, they're seeing a different path. The critics, of course, are in a frenzy. They scream that the bill will add $3 trillion to the national debt over the next decade.
Are you a penetrators or a panic fan?
Welfare expansion, student loan bailouts, and green energy slush funds.
$4 trillion Joe Biden put into the fucking system. Fucked us out of $4 trillion.
Dark Spirit's warning. They're political smokescreens designed to protect a broken status quo, a system in which bureaucrats siphon more and more wealth from working families to fund programs that make people dependent, not free. The real fear of the establishment isn't debt. It's losing control over a population that's beginning to wake up. Look deeper, and the narrative crumbles. Under similar tax policies in Trump's first term, wages grew at their fastest rate in over a decade, particularly for blue-collar workers. Unemployment hit record lows, not just overall, but among minorities. The tax cuts didn't hollow out the middle class, they revived it. And now, with the cuts made permanent, we're seeing that energy return. In just the first week following the bill's announcement, several major employers, including logistics firms, chain restaurants, and manufacturing companies, announced new job openings and wage increases. One Florida-based construction company cited the tip and overtime tax relief as the key reason they were expanding hours and hiring full-time workers instead of part-time temps. Real people, real gain. And let's not forget the seniors. For years, retirees on fixed incomes have been crushed by self-taxation, watching their Social Security benefits taxed while the price of everything from insulin to eggs climbed out of reach. Now, with this bill shielding those benefits, millions of seniors are finally getting the breathing room they deserve. That's not a handout, that's justice. And what about the border? Progressives can cry foul all they want, but even their voters are no longer buying the passion over
Hope you enjoyed the ride.
A Gallup
The best
survey
thing
in
about this
June
job,
found that 74%
that old
of
drug
Americans
test.
believe the
Here
southern
you go.
border is in crisis or a major problem. Trump's bill doesn't just talk about fixing it, it actually funds the tools to do so. Enhanced
What the
patrols,
hell are you
faster
doing?
asylum screenings, and real consequences for repeat offenders. It's the sort of common sense policy that once would have been bipartisan. But in today's Washington, common sense is an act of defiance. That's what this moment represents. Defiance against decline. The very existence of this bill sends a message that Americans are done settling for managed stagnation, hollow promises, and economic manipulation disguised as morality. And once again, it's Trump at the helm. Despite every smear, indictment, and media campaign against him, his leadership continues to resonate because it taps into something deeper than politics, the instinct to survive and build. The people backing this bill aren't die-hard partisans. They're truck drivers, single moms, welders, veterans, and retirees who've seen enough of the left's hope and change to know it's nothing but hope deferred and change for the worse. This bill is a rebuke to all of it. A line in the sand drawn by people who are sick of footing the bill for failures they didn't cause. And what truly rattles the establishment is the fact that this vision is gaining momentum. More states are mirroring Trump's reforms, cutting state income taxes, slashing red tape, and fortifying local law enforcement. Local leaders who once distanced themselves from Trump's brand are now aligning themselves with it. Why? Because it works. And when something works, people notice. You can already feel the panic spreading among Democrats and media elites. They're scrambling to shift the narrative, to reframe success as recklessness. But every kitchen table conversation, every paycheck bump, every new job posting undercuts their message, because the truth is no longer abstract, it's lived. This is what the left never understood about Trump. They thought if they censored him, indicted him, mocked him, and isolated him, his movement would collapse. But the opposite happened. The more they tried to silence his voice, the louder it echoed in the daily lives of Americans who could no longer ignore their own reality. Trump's one big beautiful bill is not just a legislative victory. It's a signal flare for a country that still believes in merit, work, borders, and freedom. It proves that leadership grounded in principle, not poll-tested talking points, can still win. This bill was not just about tax policy. It was not just about budgets or border funding or welfare reform. This is more than legislation. It's a blueprint for reclaiming the American dream.
Yeah, you're right. As in this 30 minutes.
Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox. Let's head out live over the White House press briefing room.
Yes, good.